Okay, these are the components that come with the little detector board. You get the little circuit board here. It comes with the four, at least this kit does it anyway, with four of the little photo transistors. Comes with a potentiometer, a small transistor, resistors, and an LED. In the case I'm going to be putting together, example, I'm not going to use this LED. This is intended for putting on, say, a control panel, and it would light the LED just to show that a detection of a train somewhere on your layout. So this is going to be set aside because I'm not going to use that part of it. And these resistors here are also for that using that little LED as just a signal on your circuit or a control board, so I'm not going to use that either. So those are just going to be put aside. If you're interested in learning those other components, I recommend you take a look at the instructions on the circuit board. I'll look at those later. We'll post some links to information about this little circuit board. So I'm going to go ahead and put this together real quick, and we'll show you what it looks like when it's done. It's real easy to put these together, but they are kind of small. The holes in here for the components aren't very big, so you have to be real careful when you're putting all this together that you don't wreck that delicate little circuit panel there. Okay, here's my finished circuit board. Not much to it. 3 components. It's a 1K ohm resistor, a little potentiometer here, and a little transistor. Put those on the circuit board. Next we're going to connect the power. In this case I'm going to use a 9-volt battery, and these leads run out to the little photo transistors, which are used to detect passage of the train. These work by anytime there's light has been blocked on these, they will activate the signals. So as long as you get a good light source, these will work just fine. Okay, let's see if we can sort this out here. I've got my detector board all wired up. I got power going in and out, wires going out to the photo sensors and out to the grade crossing signals, which right now are flashing, but we'll demonstrate that a little better here in a minute. But this is the detector board, and I've got follow this around over here, I've got a 9-volt battery running the whole system. One thing I haven't done yet is insulate these wires, so be sure you insulate all your connections. Power comes into the detector board, and we got 2 pairs of wires leading out to the photo detectors here, and these are wired in series. I don't know if you can see this very clearly, but this little loop of wire here, this one is going from the first photo cell here is connected to the positive. Again, I haven't insulated these yet, so make sure you insulate these. You can see the positive, the red wire coming up on the right there, on the right positive. It goes back down up through the the photocell, excuse me, and this is now connected to the negative pole on the cell, and this little jumper goes up to the positive on the other photo cell, and that comes back down, and then the negative connection here on the other side. So when you put these together in series, come from your power, go to the positive lead, and then from the negative lead you're going to have a little jumper wire that goes to the positive lead on the next photocell, and then from there it's connected to the negative power and back to the board. Now I've got two sets like this for two crossings, or two tracks rather, the two tracks, one on each side of the grade crossing. And this is how you would set it up if you've got more than one track crossing your grade. Coming out of the other end of the board, we've got power going to, follow this little thing around, going to, again, I've got uninsulated joints here, connections, so make sure you make your connections. These are going to the flasher boards, which in turn go up to the signals. Now you notice when I cover up one of these, any one of these cells here, we set off the signals. I'm covering up these, and you get the signals here. Now one thing I need to do, you can see this is still flashing and flickering just a little bit. That's because I need to adjust this little potentiometer here. Now as I turn this, you can see the, depending on your light, as I turn this little potentiometer, if I can do it with one hand, I'll turn it down the other way, you'll notice the lights slowly dim, and right to there, there's where you want your little potentiometer adjusted to. That's the threshold where the light sensitivity is. So it's still not quite there, but you get the idea here. You got to have good light on these. But if you get them where they're not quite working right, try turning this little potentiometer on the board. Adjust that until you get this little flicker out of here, and get them down just about right there, and then they should be working properly in the light. But you got to have good light. So if you don't have good light, chances are you're not going to have good response from the crossing signals here. So that's the big thing about these. And one disadvantage is that they require good light. I'm working underneath my desk lamp here, so, but I hope this isn't too confusing to show you how you would set this up on your layout. So you need to figure out, before you put this all together, figure out where you're going to put these photocells on your track. How far away from the crossing do you want them? So of course that's going to it's going to determine how long your connections are. And this you want to have mounted near the edge of the layout so that you can get to this little potentiometer easy enough. And one thing I did not add in here is probably where you have your power coming in. Put in a little power switch so you can turn this system off when you leave the room, because otherwise when you turn out the lights and go somewhere, well, there go your signals. They're going to keep going. So so that's why I've got a little power switch on mine to be able to just turn them off when I leave the room. Now the 9-volt battery is plenty of power to run this little system. That's what I do like about it, that it's entirely independent. Doesn't require any track power or connections anywhere else. The 9-volt battery, I've got two of them upstairs on my layout. It has lasted a long time. Sometimes I forget to turn these off when I leave the room. Come back an hour later and they're still flashing away. So the 9-volt battery has provided plenty of power for a long time. And when I get these mounted on the layout, I use a little Velcro strip, on each end here, to just stick these up underneath the layout. Same thing with the little potentiometer, and also do it with the battery pack. You can see I got half of the Velcro on here. Use that just to stick that up on the underside of the layout, and then I can pull those off easy if I need to do some maintenance or change them or change the battery. So that's sort of a little example here of the setup, and I hope it makes a little sense to you. We'll go upstairs and look at the layout and see how this works in operation. Okay, I'm gonna go through maybe an alternative setup here. Now right off the bat, I'll tell you I have not been entirely successful with this one, mainly because of problems installing it on the layout, but I'll get into that in a little bit. But for now I just want to go over the basics here. I'm going to go ahead and connect my power. I've got a little 9-volt battery that I'm using for my power source. I'm just going to go ahead and plug in power here. And These are slick little infrared detectors that will sense anything near them. I think we got a range of about 1 to 11 inches, and I think they're called obstacle detectors, obstacle detection. Not quite sure what they're called, what the full name for them is, but they're nice little detectors. They're pretty inexpensive. And the range on these little detectors can be adjusted with this little screw here. So by turning the screw, you can adjust the range when they activate. And I'm going to demonstrate how those can be used here. So bear with me while I make another mess of wires here. I'm going to go ahead and make my connections here from negative connector. Put a little negative here and a positive connection from my power source here. Do one here and put this on the board here, right next to each other. Now on these little detectors, you've got 3 leads here. I believe the one on the right is positive, and then there's negative, and then the output on here. And you can be careful you get these plugged in right here, so otherwise they won't work for you very well. There, now you can see I've got power to this. You get the little LED, the little light on there, and we get power. And I wave my hand over this, and you can see the other LED comes on, which tells us that it's working. It's detecting the movement of my hand right there. So now we'll get another one plugged in here. We'll get 2 of them working, and give me a minute here to do that. Okay, now we got 2 of them connected here, and as I move over the top of these, you can see them activate. The little left LED shows us that they are picking up, sensing the obstruction in front of us, which would be, in this case, a train passing over the top of them. These are little infrared detectors. One's a little infrared lamp, the other one's an infrared detector, so anything that gets in front of these will activate the detectors there. Now what I'm going to do here, I'm going to take from that ground lead, that output lead, and I'm going to bring those into the middle here. Then one going from the output on the other one, and I'm going to put these on the same connection. And now watch what happens here. I can get there. Here we go. Now when one sets off, the other one goes off too. I can get it to work here. There you go. See how that they're kind of connected here, and one you set off one, you end up setting off both, which is what we want if we're going to do something like a grade crossing, to use these to sense train movement from either side of the track. They'll both detect here, and they kind of work together once I've connected them together like that. Alright, next thing I'm going to do is to connect the flasher boards with the signals on them here. You can see these very well. Flasher boards are connected to the grade crossing signals. Now I'm going to take the negative lead from the flasher board and plug it in with the orange cables there, jumpers there, and the positive goes back to the positive power, straight back to positive power. And I'll do the same with the other one here. Got 2 of them going here. Too many wires. Okay, plug that in. You can see these are all going into the same spot. They're all common connection. And then this one goes back to the positive here. So be careful not to set these off, even when you get wires in front of these things. There. Try to get that away from there. And bring these back into view. Oop, I'm setting them off again, but as soon as you got 2 crossings on each side of the road, and voila, we got, as soon as I touch any one of these, my signals are going. And nice thing about this is that it works in the dark. Oh boy. See that? They'll work in the dark too, so you don't need light for these. They kind of generate their own signals here. So now the problem I've had with this is it's a little harder to install these because you have to come up from under the board with these. I'm gonna take these apart just so you can see it better. You got to come under the board with a larger hole to get those sensors installed. And in my case, I got to go through 1/2-inch plywood and 2 inches of foam board to get to the bottom, get underneath the track. And so it's a little tough for me to get those up there. Also, I noticed when I tried installing one of these that these LEDs are pretty bright, and they ended up shining up through the hole where I had, I could see them shining up from underneath the track there. So I got to figure out a way to mask those, either with some tape or paint or something. So that was one disadvantage with it too. And also I've noticed when I was put this into tried to install this on my layout, there was a little bit of flicker going on because they were picking up the separation between the cars, where the cars were coupled, and you get a little bit of a flicker. So it wasn't an even wasn't a nice even cover over there. So they you can see them here. They're even, that's kind of the effect I got. They would sort of flicker, and so then the signals weren't working properly either. So I might do a little bit of fiddling. I'm kind of new to all this stuff. I know there's some products out there like Arduino that you can use for programming to get these things to work properly. So I'm going to keep experimenting with this, but I just wanted to go this far with the idea that this is a much simpler setup. It's a simpler setup, but a little harder installation to get it to work right. So that's kind of where I'm at for doing the signals and things. We'll go back upstairs again on the layout and kind of show you a few more things with the signals set up there. So stay tuned, got more coming. Okay, these are the first two grade crossing signals I put on the layout for this little street here. I only have two lines, the main lines, activating the signals right now. You can see I've got quite a few more tracks coming through here. I might put a signal on this line here that is the lead into the yard. But as you look around, I'd have to put one of those little photo transistors on each track to get the signals to work. Also, one thing to think about, my little photo cells, I've got two down here, and then way over here on the other side, about 4 feet away, I've got the other two right over here. Now this works fine, provided my train isn't shorter than the distance between those sensors, those little photo transistors. So you might want to consider how long is your shortest train, because you have to be able to cover both ends of this of these photo cells here, both ends of your crossing there. Otherwise, if the train's too short, they'll go over the crossing here. You can see the signals are flashing. They'll go over the photo sensors down here, and by the time the last car gets across, it's too short, and the signals go out while the train is going right across the road. So you may have to consider how long is my shortest train, and that determine how close you put those photo cells, little photo transistors, to the crossing. Now you might be able to fix that by putting a couple of them here. So put them close to the street, maybe you can fix that problem, but it's more wiring and more photo cells, but that's one possibility. And you can see here I've got a lot of tracks in my yard. I only have two that are signaled, that have the photo transistors, and then the rest of these, there's nothing that'll trigger the grade crossing signals here. So just the main lines for now. So, but I might think about putting in more, but you can see you'd have to put in one photo cell for each track in order for it to set off the signals, and that'd be a lot more. I mean, it could do it, but it'd be a lot more wiring and so forth. So for now, I'm just happy with doing just the two main lines. Also, right down here near the edge of my table, I've got a little tiny switch that I can use to turn the signals on and off, and not too far away from there is that little potentiometer underneath the table there that I can still get at right under the table here to adjust the sensitivity of the photocells. So that's near there, near the edge of the table. I always have to kind of feel around to find it or look underneath the table to find it, but at least it's near the edge of the table and it makes it easy for adjusting the signals to the light sensitivity. Okay, here we come with just a short little train here just to show where the signals work. Here's the photo cells. The train's crossing the street. The signals are activated. And it's also crossing the one on the left. And the signals will stay on until the caboose has passed the photo transistor on the left, and now the signals are off. So pretty simple, pretty quick, works pretty nice. The only thing that trouble I have here is that if I turn off my lights in the room, well then the signals will keep running. So it won't work at night, but you could use that little power switch for manual operations at night. Okay, might work okay. Here is where the other grade crossing is, and I've got the signals working here, and the little photo cells, little photo transistor cells are located here on the left side, and down on this end, about this far down, right over here are the photo transistors on the right side. So again, you need good light, so I've got some good light here on both of these ends, so I've never had any problem with them. They work very well. Okay, I got a little train coming here, a little passenger train coming, and they will pass over the photo transistors here momentarily and set off the signals. Signals are operating. Train passes. Now the last car has already passed over the photo transistors at the left, but the train's long enough that it's now covering the transistors on the right. And the train keeps on going, it's moving a little slow. But once it clears down there, the signals will turn off and the train goes on its way. Alright folks, so that's going to do it for this edition of the monthly video journal. Hope you enjoyed the little spin around the layout with the signals and installation, all that, and all the tools. I'll put some links down below for all the components we used. So thanks for coming, thanks for staying, thanks for watching. We'll see y'all next time on the Minneapolis Northwestern Inskill Mountain Railroad monthly video journal. Bye bye.